We have a projection to make in Kentucky. CNN can now project that Ed Gallrein will win the Republican primary against Thomas Massie for the 4th Congressional District in Kentucky. Harry, this call came a lot earlier than pretty much anybody had thought it might come, and it certainly came a lot earlier than it has in prior years when there have been primaries in Kentucky. You, however, were not surprised.
I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised at all, because the bottom line is this. Donald Trump is the general of the Republican Party, and the Republican primary voters are his soldiers. And if you look at Thomas Massie, you can see it very clearly. You look in 2020, 2022, 2024, he was getting 75%, upwards of 81% of the primary vote in 2020. And today, he gets less than 50% of the vote. That's the story.
That is incredible, because you look at it so consistent time after time after time, and then, wow, look at tonight.
Scott Jennings, you're know Kentucky well. Surprised at all?
No, not surprised. I actually live in the 4th Congressional District, so I've been on the receiving end of all this mail and TV ads and text messages, and the money really did pour in. It was the most expensive U.S. House primary in American history. And money came in from all corners of the Republican Party and the conservative movement to defeat Thomas Massie. They follow the president's lead on this. You know, what's the old song? You don't tug on Superman's cape, you don't spit into the wind, you don't pull the mask off the old Lone Ranger, and you don't mess around with Trump in a Republican primary. And that's what Thomas Massie has done by becoming his chief antagonist in the U.S. House. And this became really a referendum on, is Thomas Massie on the team or not? And Trump said he wasn't. The voters followed.
Alyssa, I mean, you said he was kind of MAGA before MAGA.
Yeah, when I worked for the Freedom Caucus, he was actually too right to be part of the Freedom Caucus. He kind of marches to the beat of his own drum. He's more libertarian than anything. And this is someone who voted with Trump about 89% of the time. Doesn't vote for continuing resolutions, often votes against government funding bills and foreign aid. But the real issue here, we have to say, is Jeffrey Epstein. It's the Epstein files. Thomas Massie was one of the leading voices with Ro Khanna about accountability around Epstein, sticking it to the Justice Department. And that's why this happened. I mean, House leadership has supported him in the past, despite him being a bit of a pain at times. This was really over Epstein accountability. But to Scott's point, the base of the party is still with Trump, even with Epstein looming large.
I somewhat disagree. The key vote that House leadership turned on him over was the big, beautiful bill. I mean, the working
House
families
leadership, but
tax
the president.
Credit. Well, but that's the president's domestic policy agenda, and you cannot become an apostate on 2 issues in a Republican primary: taxes and immigration. Massie voted against Trump's immigration security. He voted against Trump's tax cuts. So when you become a chief antagonist, when you're voting with the squad against Donald Trump's domestic policy agenda, it's not Epstein.
But that's
it's
because he was against raising the national debt, which used to be a Republican talking point. So that's exactly why he says he voted against the big, beautiful bill. And Republicans seemingly don't talk about the national debt as much as they used to. So I think we need to be fair in what he said he was voting for. Exactly. But I mean, that is why he voted against the big, beautiful bill and against the Iran war. But as Alyssa said, 90% of the time he was voting with the
that
president.
Percentage is much lower now. I think this Congress, it's been more like 70. I mean, look, when you're voting with the Democrats that often, look, politics is a team sport. He's just not been on the president's team.
Anderson, you focused on this race here. It's the biggest race of the evening because it pits the President of the United States against a prominent Republican congressman who the president simply has decided he doesn't want to tolerate anymore, and the President of the United States has won yet again. At one of the weakest moments, if not the weakest moment of his presidency nationally, the president's poll numbers are tanking. Democrats are very confident about November, but the president is proving here in Kentucky 4th Congressional District yet again tonight that he still has a pretty iron grip on the Republican Party primary electorate anyway. Ed Gallrein, former Navy SEAL, he is the president's favored challenger endorsed in this race. He's winning by about 9 points, 8 points if you round that up, I guess, at the moment, over an incumbent Republican Congressman, Thomas Massie, who's won comfortable in his district for quite some time. Anderson, most of the people live here, the Cincinnati suburbs, 3 County here, and the northeast Louisville suburbs here, and you see that's Ed Gallrein's red all across there. You see Massie's winning only two counties in the district. They're out here. They include his home county, Lewis County. Significant, maybe a moral victory that Massie's winning here because Donald Trump did win 87% in this county in 2024. But moral victories don't count when this math is overwhelmingly against you. Again, 54 to 46 if you round that up. This is where the population lives. And more competitive in the suburban counties than in the rural counties? but Gilrine's still winning. So even here, this was Massey's only hope. Most of the people live up here, and it's 52-48 here. It's 53-47 there, and it's 55-45 there if you round it. And again, the only place where we were still waiting for a decent amount of votes still is Oldham County, which is just outside of Louisville, to the northeast of Louisville. It's a suburban area, but even if Massey, it's just not enough, Anderson, in the math. So if you look at it, it's pretty convincing. Donald Trump has always run very strong in rural America. He's always run very strong in rural Kentucky. And in the rural parts of the district, with the exception of Massey's home base right here, the challenger is winning. And this is more interesting to me. In the more upscale suburban areas, it's closer, but even there, Republican voters are listening to the president and voting against their congressman. Again, put the pieces together. Massey tonight in Kentucky, Senator Cassidy over the weekend in Louisiana. Those 5 Indiana state senators just a few weeks ago in Indiana, 5 out of 7. There's a recount in one of those races who wouldn't vote with the president on redistricting. The one footnote I will add to this, though, even as Donald Trump shows his grip, Anderson, on the Republican Party, they are spending tens of millions of dollars to defeat the president's critics. And a lot of Democrats are saying, thank you very much. You won't have that money when it comes to the fall. And again, the president's overall numbers are miserable. Democrats still favored come November, but the president, I'm told by people close to him, is very much enjoying this. And they also say that it's been hard to break through to him sometimes about the national numbers and about his weakness and about the trouble the Republican Party's in, because he sees results like that and thinks he's just fine.
Jeff, obviously not the outcome they were hoping for there.
It certainly is not, Anderson, and it still feels and looks like a party atmosphere, but it is anything but a celebration. Wagon Wheel is playing for the second or third time here, and the anthem of this candidacy is going to be one of defeat by President Trump. I mean, the only county, as John was just saying, that the Congressman Massey is winning is Lewis County, and that is where we were with the congressman last night at his final rally in Vanceburg, Kentucky, on the banks of the Ohio River. And the congressman said that the Trump side is panicked. That's why they're spending so much money against him. Well, actually, that has proven to be incorrect. They were spending so much money against him to defeat him, and that is exactly what has happened in a fairly dramatic fashion. I mean, the overwhelming deluge of ads here and mailers and other things is sort of difficult to describe, and people were turned off by it, but as we know, negative advertising works. And Massey, of course, spent a lot of money as well, more than $10 million, but it was absolutely the latest stop in Trump's retribution tour. President Trump has loyal supporters, and this was a closed Republican primary. That means only registered Republican voters, if they registered last December, could vote in this primary today. So there's no doubt the base of this party is with the president and his victor here tonight. His name is Ed Gulrine. He's been barely mentioned. He's a farmer and a former Navy SEAL. He appeared yesterday with the Defense Secretary at one of his first big public events of the entire campaign. But again, this is about the president and the congressman, and the president tonight is victorious.